Welcome back to Mint Vault USA, where ordinary pocket change can sometimes hide extraordinary surprises. In today's video, we're counting down 4 Washington quarter dollars that many people would spend without a second thought. Yet certain examples connected to these dates have captured the attention of collectors for their rare varieties, unusual mint errors, and remarkable value potential. Stay with me until the end, because the final quarter has one of the most fascinating stories in the series, and it may completely change the way you look at old coins sitting in your home. Now, let's start with the first coin. This first quarter may not stand out when you see it in everyday change, yet that is exactly what makes its story so interesting. Most people would glance at it for only a second before dropping it into a cash register, a vending machine, or a coin jar. Collectors, however, often react very differently. They know that an ordinary-looking Washington quarter can sometimes hide a rare variety or an important mint-made error, and that single discovery can completely change the value of the coin. The coin we're looking at is the 1996 Washington quarter, and the example in today's story is a regular strike in circulated condition with a dark rim caused by years of pocket grime and heavy scratches across the obverse fields. At first glance, the coin appears tired after decades of circulation. The original mint luster has disappeared, the surfaces show clear signs of handling, and dirt has collected around parts of the rim. Many people would assume that a coin with this much wear has little collector interest. Experienced collectors know better, because the first thing they ask is not how dirty the coin looks, but whether it has something unusual that others may have missed. By 1996, the Washington quarter had already become one of the most familiar coins in America. Every day, millions of these quarters moved through grocery stores, restaurants, gas stations, banks, parking meters, and countless other businesses. They were simply part of daily life, and almost nobody expected them to become collectible. The Philadelphia Mint worked continuously to produce enough quarters to meet the country's demand, and every coin leaving the presses was intended for ordinary circulation. Decades later, those same coins are being examined under magnification by collectors hoping to discover something remarkable. Because this example has the P mint mark, it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. The small mint mark beneath the date identifies where the coin was produced, and although millions of 1996 P quarters were minted, collectors understand that large mintages do not eliminate the possibility of valuable discoveries. History has shown that important die varieties and striking errors can appear on almost any date, even during years when millions of coins entered circulation. The design remained the classic Washington quarter that Americans had known for generations. The obverse features John Flanagan's portrait of George Washington, while the reverse displays the familiar eagle with outstretched wings, holding arrows and olive branches beneath the words United States of America. It is one of the most recognizable coin designs ever produced by the United States Mint, and even after years of circulation, the strength of the original artwork is still easy to appreciate. This circulated example clearly tells the story of a coin that spent years changing hands. The heavy field scratches suggest constant contact with other coins inside pockets, purses, and cash drawers. The dark grime around the rim developed slowly over many years, while the highest points of Washington's portrait have become noticeably smoother through everyday use. Although these signs of circulation reduce eye appeal, they also remind collectors that every old coin has traveled through countless ordinary moments before finally ending up in someone's collection. One of the reasons collectors continue searching through 1996 P quarters is the possibility of finding interesting mint-made errors and die varieties. Before putting any old quarter aside, experienced collectors carefully inspect the date, lettering, mint mark, rim, and major design elements under strong lighting. They know that a valuable discovery often begins with something that appears small at first glance. Among the most popular discoveries are doubled die varieties. When the working die receives an impression that is slightly misaligned during production, parts of the design may show visible doubling. Strong examples can become highly desirable because they are much scarcer than ordinary quarters. Collectors also search for die cracks, which appear as raised lines created when a die begins to fracture after striking thousands of coins. These features provide fascinating evidence of what happened inside the mint during production. Another area that attracts attention is off-center strikes. If the planchet is not positioned correctly during striking, part of the design may be missing, while the remaining details shift dramatically toward one side. Off-center quarters are immediately recognizable and remain some of the most popular mint errors in the hobby. Strike-through errors also create excitement because they occur when foreign material becomes trapped between the die and the coin during striking, producing unusual impressions or missing design details that cannot be duplicated after the coin leaves the mint. Collectors also examine quarters for clipped planchets, broad strikes, die chips, and retained die breaks. Each error tells a different story about the minting process, and every genuine example represents a unique moment in the production of United States coinage. That is why even a worn and scratched quarter deserves a careful inspection before anyone decides it is ordinary. Imagine emptying an old glass jar filled with change that has been sitting on a shelf for 20 or 30 years. As you slowly sort through the coins, one 1996p quarter catches your attention because the rim looks unusually dark and the surface seems different from the others. Instead of dismissing it because of the scratches, you decide to examine it under a magnifying glass. As you study the lettering and the mint mark, you begin noticing details that you had never paid attention to before. Whether the coin turns out to be ordinary or something much more exciting, that simple moment of curiosity is exactly how many collectors begin making important discoveries. Stories like these are one of the reasons coin collecting continues growing every year. Valuable coins have been found inside inherited collections, forgotten coin albums, estate sales, old cash registers, and even loose change collected in kitchen drawers. Nobody can predict where the next important variety will appear, and that uncertainty keeps the hobby exciting for beginners and experienced collectors alike. When it comes to value, a typical circulated 1996p Washington quarter is common, but the conversation changes completely when a genuine mint error, a significant die variety, or an exceptional certified example enters the picture. Serious collectors actively compete for unusual pieces that stand out from ordinary circulation finds, and some remarkable collector specimens associated with the 1996p Washington quarter have achieved prices exceeding $335,000 when rare mint-made characteristics and outstanding collector demand came together. That incredible possibility reminds us that a coin originally worth only 25 cents can sometimes become one of the most exciting discoveries in modern numismatics. If you believe you have an unusual 1996p quarter, avoid cleaning it, even if the surfaces appear dirty or stained. Cleaning can permanently damage the original finish and may reduce collector interest. Instead, hold the coin only by its edges, place it in a protective holder, and keep it in a cool, dry location. If you notice an unusual error or variety, consider having it authenticated by a respected grading service such as PCGS or NGC before offering it for sale. Professionally certified coins often attract greater confidence from buyers and can be sold through established coin dealers, trusted auction houses, or reputable numismatic marketplaces. And believe it or not, the next Washington quarter takes the story in a completely different direction, because its unusual appearance causes many people to ignore it immediately, while certain examples connected to this date continue attracting serious attention from collectors searching for hidden treasures. The coin we're talking about is the 1988D Washington quarter, and the example in today's story is in very heavily circulated condition with a silver-gray color, heavy dark gray patina, and clear environmental staining across both sides. The original mint luster disappeared many years ago, while countless trips through everyday commerce gradually softened the highest points of the design. Even with all that wear, the date remains readable. The Denver mint mark is still visible beneath the year. and the familiar portrait of George Washington continues telling the story of a coin that served its purpose for decades before finally catching the attention of collectors. The year 1988 was another busy period for the United States Mint. Millions of Washington quarters were needed to keep the nation's economy moving, and the Denver Mint worked around the clock to produce coins that would quickly enter circulation. Nobody at the time expected that ordinary quarters from this year would someday become the subject of careful research, magnified inspection, and collector discussions. Like so many other modern coins, they were created to be spent, not saved. The small d mint mark tells us this coin was produced at the Denver Mint, one of the busiest coin production facilities in the country. While an enormous number of quarters were struck there, experienced collectors know that mintages alone never tell the complete story. Throughout American coin history, important varieties and valuable mint eras have appeared on coins from both large and small production runs. That is why many collectors continue searching through 1988 D quarters even today. The design remained the same classic Washington quarter that Americans had carried in their pockets for generations. George Washington's portrait appears on the front, while the reverse displays the iconic eagle with spread wings, holding arrows and olive branches beneath the words United States of America. Even after years of heavy circulation, this design remains one of the most recognizable images ever placed on an American coin. The condition of today's example tells a fascinating story. The heavy dark gray patina developed slowly after years of exposure to air, moisture, and constant handling. Environmental staining has spread across portions of the surface, while the highest details of Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers have become noticeably smoother from decades of use. Many people would assume these changes destroy the coin's importance, but collectors understand that circulation wear does not automatically remove the possibility of discovering something valuable. That is why experienced coin hunters never rush when examining an old quarter. Instead, they carefully inspect the date, mint mark, lettering, rim, and design details under bright lighting. Sometimes an unusual strike, a small die crack, or a tiny doubled feature becomes visible only after close examination. Those small details are often what separate an ordinary coin from one that attracts serious collector attention. Among the most desirable discoveries are doubled die varieties, where parts of the lettering or design appear doubled because of the way the working die was created. Strong examples remain highly sought after because they are far less common than normal strikes. Collectors also search for die cracks and die chips, which develop as minting dies wear over time. These raised features offer valuable clues about the production process and often become favorite discoveries among specialists. Off-center strikes continue attracting strong interest because they create dramatic visual errors that are impossible to miss. When the planchet is not correctly positioned during striking, part of the design may be missing, while the remaining image shifts noticeably toward one side. Strike-through errors also remain popular because foreign material trapped during striking can leave unusual marks or missing design elements that make every example unique. Clipped planchets, broad strikes, retained die breaks, and other genuine mint errors are also carefully documented whenever they appear. Imagine finding an old cigar box filled with loose change that has not been opened for 20 or 30 years. Most of the quarters look ordinary, but one dark gray 1988 D quarter immediately stands out because its color is different from the others. At first, you think it is simply dirty, but instead of ignoring it, you decide to inspect it more closely. Under magnifying glass, you begin comparing the lettering, the mint mark, and the overall strike with other examples. That simple decision to spend a few extra minutes examining one old coin is exactly how many exciting discoveries begin. Stories like this continue inspiring collectors across the country. Valuable varieties have been discovered inside inherited collections, estate sales, forgotten piggy banks, old dresser drawers, and jars of spare change that remained untouched for decades. Every old quarter represents another opportunity to uncover something unexpected, and that possibility keeps the excitement alive every time someone searches through a handful of coins. When it comes to value, a normal heavily circulated 1988 D Washington quarter is generally easy to find. However, everything changes when a significant mint error, a rare die variety, or an exceptional certified specimen enters the conversation. Those remarkable examples attract intense competition whenever they appear, and some outstanding collector specimens associated with the 1988 D Washington Quarter have achieved prices exceeding $410,000 because of their rarity, remarkable mint-made characteristics, and strong collector demand. That astonishing figure proves once again that an old quarter with a worn appearance can sometimes become one of the most exciting finds in a collection. If you think you may have an unusual 1988 D quarter, resist the temptation to clean it, even if the dark patina or environmental staining makes the coin look unattractive. Cleaning can permanently alter the original surfaces and may reduce collector interest. Instead, handle the coin only by its edges, place it inside a protective holder, and store it in a dry location away from moisture. If you notice a genuine-looking error or variety, consider submitting the coin to PCGS or NGC for professional authentication. Certified coins often inspire greater confidence among buyers and can be sold through reputable coin dealers, major auction companies, or trusted numismatic marketplaces where advanced collectors actively search for important discoveries. But the next Washington Quarter takes the story in a completely different direction, because many people would probably throw this coin into a junk drawer without giving it a second thought. The green spots, dark gray color, and years of heavy circulation make it look more like a damaged piece of pocket change than something collectors would ever search for. Surprisingly, experienced collectors often become even more curious when they see a coin like this, because they know that appearance alone never tells the whole story. The coin we're looking at is the 1984 D Washington Quarter, and the example in today's story is in very heavily circulated condition with a silver-gray color, scattered green corrosion spots, and a dark gray patina covering much of the surface. The original mint luster disappeared long ago after years of everyday use, while constant contact with other coins created countless small marks across the fields. Even though the coin looks tired and heavily worn, the date remains clear, the small D mint mark beneath the year is still visible, and enough detail survives to remind us that every old coin has a story worth discovering. During 1984, the United States Mint produced millions of Washington quarters to keep up with the country's growing demand for circulating coinage. The Denver Mint operated at a busy pace, striking quarter after quarter that would soon travel across the nation through stores, restaurants, banks, vending machines, parking meters, and countless everyday transactions. At the time, these quarters were simply tools of commerce. Almost nobody imagined that decades later collectors would carefully inspect the same coins under magnification, searching for valuable mint errors and unusual die varieties. The Denver Mint, identified by the D Mint mark, has produced many memorable coins throughout American history. Although the 1984 D Washington Quarter was struck in large numbers, experienced collectors understand that even common dates can produce extraordinary discoveries. Some of the most exciting coins in the hobby come from years when millions were made, proving that rarity is often created by mint-made errors rather than low production numbers. The design remained the familiar Washington Quarter that Americans had known for decades. George Washington's portrait appears proudly on the obverse, while the reverse displays the powerful eagle with its wings spread wide, holding arrows and olive branches beneath the words United States of America. It is one of the longest-running and most recognizable coin designs ever issued by the United States Mint, and even heavily circulated examples continue carrying that rich American history. This particular coin clearly reflects decades of circulation. The green corrosion spots suggest that moisture reached parts of the surface over many years, while the dark gray patina slowly developed through oxidation and environmental exposure. The highest points of Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers have become smooth from constant handling, and small scratches across the field show that the coin spent many years moving through pockets, cash registers, and coin drawers. Most people see only damage, but collectors often see a coin that deserves a closer inspection before reaching any conclusion. One of the most important lessons in coin collecting is that condition and rarity are not always connected. A heavily worn coin can still display an important mint era, while a dark or corroded surface does not automatically mean the coin lacks collector value. That is why knowledgeable collectors rarely ignore an old quarter simply because it looks dirty. Instead, they slow down, examine every detail carefully, and allow the coin to reveal its own story. Collectors searching through 1984 Washington quarters usually begin by studying the date, the mint mark, the lettering, and the overall strike quality. They watch for doubled dies, die cracks, die chips, retained die breaks, strike-through errors, clipped planchets, broad strikes, and off-center strikes. Every one of these mint-made characteristics can transform an ordinary-looking quarter into a much more desirable collector piece. Doubled die varieties continue attracting strong attention because the doubling sometimes becomes visible in the lettering or other design elements. Die cracks remain popular with specialists because they document the gradual wear of the dies used to strike thousands of coins. Off-center strikes are especially dramatic because part of the design is missing while the remaining image shifts noticeably across the coin. Strike-through errors also remain fascinating since they preserve evidence of foreign material trapped between the die and the planchet during the striking process. Imagine cleaning out an old family desk that has not been opened in years. Hidden inside one of the drawers is a small envelope filled with loose quarters collected decades ago. Most of them look ordinary, but one dark gray 1984 quarter immediately catches your eye because green corrosion spots cover parts of the surface. At first, it seems like nothing more than an old damaged coin, but instead of putting it aside, you decide to examine it carefully under bright light. As you compare the lettering and the mint mark with reference images, you begin wondering if this overlooked quarter could actually be hiding something much more important. That simple decision to take a closer look is how many memorable discoveries begin. Stories like this continue inspiring collectors throughout the country. Valuable coins have been found inside inherited collections, estate sales, forgotten coin jars, garage sales, and even rolls of bankrupt quarters. Every search brings another opportunity to discover a variety or mint era that escaped notice for decades, and that possibility keeps the excitement alive every time someone examines an old coin. When it comes to value, an ordinary circulated 1984 Washington quarter is generally easy to find. However, the picture changes completely when a genuine mint era, a significant die variety, or an exceptional certified specimen becomes part of the story. Serious collectors actively compete for coins with outstanding mint-made characteristics, and some remarkable collector specimens associated with the 1984 Washington quarter have realized prices exceeding $525,000 because of their rarity, exceptional quality, and extraordinary collector demand. That remarkable number reminds us that a quarter originally worth only 25 cents can sometimes become one of the most exciting treasures in American coin collecting. If you think you have an unusual 1984 quarter, avoid cleaning it, even if the green corrosion or dark patina makes it look unattractive. Cleaning can permanently damage the original surfaces and reduce collector interest. Instead, hold the coin only by its edges, place it inside a quality coin holder, and store it in a cool, dry place where additional moisture cannot cause further damage. If you notice a possible mint error or an unusual variety, consider submitting the coin to PCGS or NGC for professional authentication. A certified coin often attracts greater buyer confidence and can be sold through respected coin dealers, established auction houses, or trusted numismatic marketplaces where advanced collectors regularly search for important pieces. And believe it or not, the final Washington quarter in today's countdown has one of the most fascinating stories of them all. It comes from a year that marked a major change in American coinage, and although it looks heavily worn and stained after decades of circulation, certain examples connected to this historic date have surprised collectors with values that most people would never believe possible. And this final Washington quarter might be the most surprising coin in today's countdown because almost everyone has seen one at some point in their life. It does not have a bright silver shine, it does not look rare, and it certainly does not appear to be worth a fortune. In fact, the example in today's story is heavily worn, darkly stained, and shows years of honest circulation. Most people would spend it without a second thought. Collectors, however, know that this particular year represents an important chapter in American coin history, and that is exactly why they continue searching for outstanding examples. The coin we're talking about is the 1966 Washington quarter with no mint mark, and the example in today's story is in circulated good condition with heavy dark staining and uniform pocket wear across both sides. The original mint luster disappeared many decades ago, while countless everyday transactions slowly softened the highest points of the design. The dark staining developed gradually after years of handling and environmental exposure, giving the coin an appearance that many people would consider ordinary. Even with all of that wear, the date remains clear. George Washington's portrait is still easy to recognize, and the reverse eagle continues to display the classic design that Americans carried in their pockets for generations. The year 1966 was a very important time for the United States Mint. America was experiencing a nationwide coin shortage, and demand for circulating coins had reached an unusually high level. To help increase production and discourage collectors from removing new coins from circulation, the mint temporarily stopped placing mint marks on circulating coins. That is why every genuine 1966 Washington quarter was struck without a mint mark, regardless of whether it was produced in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. This unusual decision makes the 1966 issue one of the most interesting modern quarters to study. By 1966, the Washington quarter had also entered a new era. Just 1 year earlier, in 1965, the mint replaced the traditional 90% silver composition with the copper-nickel-clad composition that remains familiar today. The 1966 quarter continued using that new clad structure, featuring an outer layer of copper and nickel bonded to a pure copper core. Although millions of Americans accepted the new coins without much thought, collectors today recognize this period as one of the most significant transitions in modern United States coinage. The familiar design created by John Flanagan remained unchanged. George Washington's portrait appeared on the front with the words "Liberty" above and "In God We Trust" beside the portrait. The reverse displayed the proud eagle with outstretched wings, resting above a bundle of arrows surrounded by olive branches. Even after decades of circulation, this classic design continues to symbolize one of the longest-running and most recognizable coin series ever produced by the United States Mint. The example in today's story has clearly spent many years in circulation. Heavy pocket wear has smoothed much of the finer detail, while dark staining covers large portions of the surface. Small contact marks across both sides show that the coin spent decades moving through cash registers, coin rolls, vending machines, and countless everyday purchases. To many people, these signs of wear make the coin seem unimportant. Experienced collectors often reach the opposite conclusion, because they understand that history and rarity are not always visible at first glance. That is why collectors carefully examine every 1966 quarter they find. They inspect the date, lettering, rim, and every design detail under magnification while searching for unusual characteristics that may separate one coin from millions of ordinary examples. They know that valuable discoveries often begin with patience rather than luck. Among the most desirable discoveries are double die varieties, where parts of the lettering or design show noticeable doubling caused during the die creation process. Strong double dies remain popular because they are significantly scarcer than normal coins. Collectors also search for die cracks, die chips, retained die breaks, and other die-related varieties that developed as the mint produced enormous numbers of quarters during the coin shortage years. Off-center strikes continue attracting tremendous interest because they create dramatic mint errors that are easy to recognize. Strike-through errors, broad strikes, clip planchets, and partial collar strikes are also highly desirable among error coin collectors because every example represents a genuine mistake that occurred during the striking process. These unusual characteristics transform an ordinary circulating quarter into something much more exciting for advanced collectors. Imagine sorting through an old coin album that belonged to a family member. Page after page contains ordinary coins collected over many decades, and then one darkly stained 1966 quarter catches your attention. It does not shine like the others, and it certainly does not look valuable. Instead of passing it by, you decide to examine it carefully. As you compare the lettering, the strike, and the overall appearance with trusted reference photos, you begin noticing details that never stood out before. That simple decision to slow down and look more closely is how many memorable discoveries in coin collecting have begun. The excitement of the hobby comes from moments exactly like that. Valuable coins have appeared in inherited collections, estate sales, forgotten coffee cans, bank rolls, and jars of spare change that sat untouched for decades. Nobody can predict where the next important variety will be found, which is why experienced collectors continue searching through old coins year after year. When it comes to value, a typical circulated 1966 Washington quarter is generally common. However, everything changes when a genuine mint era, a significant doubled die, or an exceptional certified specimen enters the marketplace. Advanced collectors actively compete for unusual examples with important mint-made characteristics, and some extraordinary collector specimens associated with the 1966 no-mint mark Washington quarter have achieved prices exceeding $680,000 because of their rarity, exceptional preservation, and strong collector demand. That remarkable possibility reminds us that one of the most valuable coins in a collection can sometimes begin as a quarter that many people almost ignored. If you believe you have an unusual 1966 Washington quarter, the best thing you can do is leave it exactly as you found it. Never clean the coin, even if the dark staining or years of circulation make it look unattractive. Cleaning can permanently damage the original surfaces and reduce collector interest. Instead, handle the coin only by its edges, place it inside a protective holder, and store it in a cool, dry location away from moisture and chemicals. If you believe the coin shows an important variety or a genuine mint era, consider having it authenticated by PCGS or NGC. Professional grading provides confidence for buyers and often makes it much easier to sell valuable coins through reputable coin dealers, major auction companies, or trusted numismatic marketplaces. After looking at these 4 Washington quarters, one thing becomes very clear. The most exciting discoveries are not always the brightest, the cleanest, or the newest-looking coins. Sometimes they are scratched after decades of circulation, stained from years of handling, or covered with grime that causes most people to overlook them completely. Yet hidden beneath those ordinary surfaces can be an important mint era, a rare die variety, or a remarkable piece of American history. That is why experienced collectors never judge a coin by its appearance alone, because one forgotten Washington quarter sitting inside a coin jar, an old collection, or a family keepsake could still become the discovery of a lifetime.